Hello and welcome to Ask the Expert. What's new in Azure Cognitive Services? Hopefully I sound okay. There you go. Do you want to find anomalies in data? Quickly identify and troubleshoot issues or analyze how many people are keeping their 6 feet of social distance in your store, from introduction of the new Metrics Advisor service to public preview of Spatial Analysis featuring computer vision. This session will provide an overview of the new services and features in Cognitive Services. Now, everybody knows how I read stuff, because basically, if you are noticing, I am in a weird room. This is the green room right outside the Microsoft Ignite live stage, and so I am here today. Let's go to the next slide. By the way, Chung is running these slides. Thank you so much. How to engage with us? Just use the chat to ask questions. Questions will appear to all attendees once approved by the moderator. If you have a favorite question, make sure you upvote it so that everyone will want to, so that we can see it and ask it. Experts will answer questions verbally and over chat determined by the moderator, which today happens to be myself. Experts will provide resources once the session concludes to learn more. Let's go to the next slide because we need to talk a little bit about some etiquette. This session may be recorded. Help our moderators. Please do not spam or post inappropriate comments in the chat. There is indeed a Microsoft Code of Conduct, which is on the very next slide. Let's go to that. There you go. This is our code of conduct. Pretty much just don't be mean. And we know that all of our AI folks are never mean. And so I don't know why we have to even have this slide, but they told me I had to put it in here. So now a little bit on who is on today. So let's go to the next slide. We have a bunch of experts here. For example, we have Ryan Menezes, on-camera expert. Tony Singh, on-camera expert. Fani is back, as well as Netta. We have a lot of folks doing some chat as well. And we have Ivana. Hopefully we can get her on. She was having some difficulties earlier, on-camera experts, because we will always love to talk about our products, but I also love hearing from Microsoft MVPs on how they're using our stuff. So what I thought we would do to start is hopefully everyone will get some time to get situated and ask questions, but I want everyone to spend some time introducing themselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of the on-camera experts to introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Ryan. Tell us who you are and what you do, my friend.
Hey, I'm Ryan Menezes. I'm an engineering manager on the Cognitive Services team. I specifically work on real-time video and lately on spatial analysis.
Fantastic. Tony, you're up, buddy.
Hey everyone, this is Tony Xin. I'm the product manager of Cognitive Service, specifically, working on Decision AI, and Metrics Advisor is our latest service we are going to introduce today.
Fantastic. Fani, is he here? I just want to make sure, look around. Maybe he's not here. Netta, for sure, I know you're here. Oh, you're on mute, my friend. It always happens. It's okay. This is the statement of the century. So we'll go with you, Netta.
Hi, everybody.
Netta, go ahead, my friend.
Hi, everybody. I'm Netta. I'm the group product manager of OCR and Form Recognizer at Microsoft.
Fantastic. Was that you, Fani, that I heard that showed up? All right, Go ahead, buddy. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Said. This is Fani Mutiala. I'm working as a program manager, driving the container strategy and roadmap from Cognitive Services.
Awesome, and I'm not sure if Ivana made it, but someone will message me as soon as she's online. We want to make sure to get her on. Okay, so it looks like there's a bunch of questions already coming in, and I'm just going to read them. And if someone is interested in answering them, let me know, and just shout them out. So, for example, here's one. Our users often work in coal mines and don't have a network, so how do they use Cognitive Services? What's a good way to use Cognitive Services in a disconnected way? Funny, I think you may have an answer.
Yeah, so we're definitely the Cognitive Services containers definitely allow customers to run fully close to the data, where the data locates. But today the Cognitive Services is not available fully disconnected. They require connectivity every 10 to 15 minutes to send the billing data. We have the fully disconnected containers available on the roadmap, which available next few months. But for now, the containers you can run close to the data, to meet all the regulations, all the data proximity concerns. But at this moment, they require connectivity.
Awesome, amazing answer. Next question coming in from Anonymous. On added capabilities on Vision API and document processing, is document classification available? I feel like, Netta, that might be something you can answer.
Yes. So in the Vision API, you can do document classification using the model composed today in Form Recognizer. Basically, if you want to create a model per document and then compose them all together, you can use that as an option for classification. Or you can use OCR to extract the text and then build on top of it a document classification. We currently do not have a specific document classification feature, but you can use these two features to create your own document classification.
Awesome, great answer. Next question, please explain the new social distance cognitive feature that was released today, and when will it be available to try out? I think they mean spatial analysis. Do we have someone to speak to spatial analysis on this?
Yeah, I can take this one. Spatial analysis has this feature called social distancing. The way it works is on camera, the camera sees people and it'll periodically send out, it can measure distances, because when the camera starts up, it actually goes into a learning mode for the first couple of minutes where it's trying to understand the space around you, and it sort of builds a 3D view of that 2D space. And so down the road, as people come and go around in that space, it's actually able to measure very precisely the distances between these people. And based on the rules you've set, it can go ahead and say, hey, these many violations happened at this point in time. As to the second part of the question, that's actually available to try immediately. As part of our container offering, all you need to do is go to ATE-MS CS-Gate, fill out the form, we'll review it and get back to you.
Awesome. So people can start using it today. If they, I know, for example, in the session, RXR has been using spatial analysis to great effect, as well as also using it in a container. So that was pretty cool. All right. Question from Eve, my good friend, is that robotic voice or the speech service telephony available to use it to answer the phone as well, not just calling? So for example, how can people use speech? And I know that it's something that can be used in telephony applications, among others. Can someone explain how the speech service works? Anybody takers on that? If not, I'll tell you how I think it works. And if I'm wrong, then it's okay. Well, I'll tell you how I think it works, because the demo that you saw me do there with telephony, it makes it look like cognitive services does telephony, but it doesn't. What speech services does is it actually takes text and generates understandable human speech. And there are several voice fonts, so to speak, and these voice fonts you can use. And the one that I showed at the end is a custom neural text-to-speech voice that I trained. And what I had to do is I had to say like 300-400 sentences into a machine and then send it off to train the new customer text-to-speech. And so what you saw happening when I pushed the button is it was generating a post call to an Azure function that I built, and that Azure function then initiated a phone call. Then the phone call place called the same Azure function and said, hey, this is the phone call. I was told to query this endpoint API, and that endpoint basically generated a WAV file. And so when it comes to actually doing like a back and forth chat, it's certainly something you can do. But again, the speech service, all it does is it can do things like convert speech to text and then convert text to speech. So you can imagine creating a scenario where, for example, you are getting audio and you are generating text from that, processing that using Lewis, for example, to come up with intents, right, and entities. And then from those intents and entities, you can generate a speech response with text. And so that's, I mean, you can totally do that. It's the service is amazing, and you do that. So hopefully I answered okay, and people can, if I'm wrong, that's okay, because I've been wrong a lot. I'm married. All right, here we go. Greetings. I understand that we have language understanding and Q&A makers for chatbots and virtual agents, but users' question is always open-ended. Do we have a language generation service? That's a good question. By the way, as people are thinking about language generation service, remember there was an announcement from Satya regarding GPT-3 licensing, which is indeed a generative language models. So maybe you'll see some of that later. Looks like Ivana was able to get in, by the way, so we're going to start to ask her questions as well. Okay, looks like there's a lot of answers coming in, so let me scroll through. We did that one. We did that one. We did that one. Okay, here's another one. Is there a workaround in chatbot or service when bot is deployed on mobile teams but still working off? I didn't understand that question. No. Okay, so I'm going to ask some questions because I'm not seeing some right now, but I want people to get some answers. Neda, why don't you describe what the form recognizer service does and why people should consider using it? So we'll go with you while I read through the questions. Neda, can you go ahead and do that?
Sounds great, yes. So form recognizer is the cognitive service that enables you to extract text, key value pairs, right now also new selection marks, and tables from your documents. In general, if you want to automate your process, for example, do robotic process automation on invoices, on tax document and stuff like that, you can create models specific to your forms to train them to extract the data. If you want to do knowledge mining on top of your documents, you can use form recognizer to build models and extract the text, the table, the key value pairs, and do knowledge mining and search and to build Power BI dashboards on top of your data.
That's awesome. And in fact, it's a really cool service because she talked about the service at length, but for me, I'm in developer relations. One of the coolest things is they actually released an open source application that you can use to actually label all of these things to create custom form recognizer models, which I think is super cool. And Neda, thanks for that. I downloaded it and used it and ran it locally. There's even a way to run it as an Electron app.
Yes, it is. You can run the whole service locally. So form recognizer is available in containers. If you want all your data to remain on premise, you can run it locally. And our sample labeling tool basically is an open source, so you can basically build your own, convert it to your own UI, and build your own UI on top of that for your customers.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like I said, for those of you that watch this session, you see me actually use it directly on my machine with containers. It's pretty good. All right, here is the next question from Renee. We are currently testing cognitive search to index documents in Azure Data Lake Gen 2. Is there any timeline when this feature will be out of preview and be generally available for production? Any search folks online? There's no search for teams, but in general, just as a general comment on general availability, we usually release preview features within 6 to 12 months out of preview into general availability. So I don't know the date for search, but in general, that's around the time frame that we do previews. Awesome. Next question from Brian. For OCR, I have found that it has been more general rather than industry context specific. Are there plans to have more targeted OCR capabilities, such as license plate OCR? I know OCR is pretty good. Any comments on this particular question? OCR. Yeah, so we don't have a license plate model, a pre-built license plate model, but you could use OCR to extract data from images in the wild, like license plate numbers on containers and stuff like that. So although we do not have a pre-built model, you could use OCR to extract text from license plate and additional images. Fantastic. And I understand that we finally got Ivana. So Ivana, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do, because she is the one that keeps us honest, because she actually speaks to customers and works on her own products.
Hi, Seth. It's a pleasure. Okay, introduce myself. I'm Ivana. I'm a quality manager for a company that's called 3XM Group. And by managing quality, you can imagine how thrilled I was when I saw the Metrics Advisor, which is one of, I think it's going to be a key product for all the customers that we manage, because part of the job that I do is managing, of course, all the different alerts that we get with the customers, and we need to deliver the solution as soon as possible. And that product, that service that is now available, I think is going to be key for us to help our customers even faster than we could. And specifically, if the demo that you show with the speech recognizer, I think that's definitely the key for helping. And we have different customers. We have from product engines to custom face or to medical health and everything. I can see it using the metrics advisor in all the different scenarios. So I think that's one of the most exciting announcement that you gave yesterday.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Ivana. And speaking of Metrics Advisor, Tony, would you mind sharing like why we made Metrics Advisor and what problems it solves? Do you have a second, Tony?
Yeah, sure. It's actually, really start from an internal project because, within Microsoft, we also have this need to really, monitor a lot of metrics in a form of a time series. So, for example, those organizations, within Microsoft, they are tracking their performance in terms of revenues and in terms of, page views. And there's a lot of online services also monitor their performance. They want to actually stay on top of those, metrics, which is a proxy to a lot of, the business or services. So that's basically how it's, started. And then we see a lot of actually demand from our external customers and partners. That's basically how it started. And then in the private preview, we actually pilot with a lot of our friends, in the manufacturing, in the AI operation world, in the predictive maintenance world. So, they provide a lot of great feedback, and they find this tool very useful. So we are really thrilled, to basically, to help them and then to, generate customer value for our fans. Yeah.
Awesome. So here's a really good question from Sky. He said, recently there was an incident with Twitter image cropping. Basically, my question is, how is Microsoft tackling racial bias in machine learning? Yeah, if you were to go and Google with Bing, responsible AI, Microsoft responsible AI, we are very committed to 6 core principles when it comes to AI. They include fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. And what we do is we try to infuse every one of these principles into our applications. And if, like I said, AI is an interesting new way of writing functions. Now, here's my way of saying it. AI is a lazy way of writing functions with data. Sometimes our data might be biased. Sometimes what we're building might be biased. Sometimes there's bias in everywhere in the pipeline. We are committed to rooting that bias out and making sure that AI systems treat all people fairly. And so we are committed to doing that. And so if you ever find a service of ours that is not doing that, we want to know and we want to fix it. And so that's a really, really good question. Okay, here's another one. Okay, for documents, this is Rathish. Is there an inbuilt feature available in Vision or Form Recognizer to match documents to created templates or models automatically created using labeling tool, as these would be helpful in massive volumes scenario? Netta, I think this is a similar question to what we had before.
Yes, this is exactly the new feature we introduced this week, which is the model compose, where you can take your single model, you can build a model per template, train a model for a single type of form, and then compose all these models together into one model compose. And now when you route the documents, Form Recognizer will match the document to the model, the specific model of the template, and extract the relevant data.
Got it.
Currently, it's limited to 100 models. We're looking into increasing that. So currently, you can take 100 different document type and create a model compose out of them.
And so basically, model composed is like another machine learning model on top of the Form Recognizer model, where it says, I think this is this kind of form, and it redirects it to the right place. Is that about right?
That is exactly correct.
Awesome. So here's another question. As part of Form Recognizer tag, is it possible to read recipes as well? I understand that these can be trained with custom recipes, but it might be a problem if it's not a supported language. Is Danish supported already, or could it be actually an issue with handling recipes in a country where the language is not supported? So let's talk about language support in Form Recognizer, and then maybe add to that the recipe stuff. Netta?
Yeah, so currently Form Recognizer supports 8 languages: simplified Chinese, Italian, German, French, Portuguese, Spanish, and Dutch, and English, of course. We are adding additional languages on our roadmap coming soon. And all the English characters, Latin characters will be extracted if you try out Form Recognizer. Accents might be missing on languages. So basically for recipes, you can run them through Form Recognizer, you can run them through layout just to extract the text and the tables, or you can also create a specifically trained model for that specific recipes.
Awesome. Okay, so keep the questions coming, but I thought we'd spend some time with Ryan because he really hasn't said too much. Ryan, why don't you tell us what you work on and what are some exciting things that people should look out for and use in their services? Ryan, over to you.
Yeah, so as I said in the introduction, I work on real-time video. This is the new service we just added as part of Cognitive Services called Spatial Analysis. And our main focus is to power those cameras that are so widespread in public spaces, retail, lobbies, real estate. And the common questions we get from people is, how can I count how many people are in a space? How can I understand how much time people are spending in a space, like dwell time? We call that dwell time. These are pretty common asks, and so this service is now focused on providing you those metrics, and you can use them in a wide variety of ways. As we started looking at this, the pandemic hit, and so it became super important for people to measure not just the maximum occupancy of a space, but also things like, is social distancing being followed? And so we took on that challenge, and I think we solved it in a very unique way. So this is a feature that's part of Azure that you probably won't see in a lot of other video analytics solutions. It can actually understand that 3D space, as I was mentioning earlier, and give you these metrics and help you plan. And so RxWell, Seth, I think you talked to Corey, they have deployed this and they've been able to reopen their buildings, and they're actually seeing a lot of value out of it. So yeah.
That's really cool. Thanks so much for the update, Ryan. We've got two for Tony. What is the roadmap for anomaly detection like? Are you planning to implement more complex models other than series regression models? Over to you, Tony.
Yes, we do. Actually, if you look at our latest blog, you can see that even for anomaly detector, it's not just using simple regression model. It's actually ensemble framework that there's a pool of algorithms in there, and then it's basically AutoML for anomaly detection happening there. This will automatically select the best model and parameter to fit the time series and generate the best result. So in the future roadmap, we are definitely continue to add more advanced algorithm and models. One of them, the most recent innovation we have is the multivariate anomaly detection. So that will basically taking in multiple signal and generate forecast about whether the overall system has a problem. So that are coming very soon. So about in 1 or 2 quarter away. Yeah.
Cool. And then there's another question for you, Tony. Could you detail the root cause analysis capability of the metrics advisor? And that's from Angela. What does the root cause analysis actually do for folks?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So anomaly detection is only the first step, and people are always asking about additional insight into why this is happening and what they can do about that. So basically, root cause analysis provides this insight and suggested action for the users to really get additional value. And we actually published today a very good blog. So that has additional detail about anomaly detection and root cause analysis. So I think our chat expert can actually post the link of that blog that has actually a lot of details.
Fantastic. Next question. What is the name of the open source UI tool for building form recognition models and using form recognizers offline? That'd be to you, Netta.
Yeah, so it's the Form Recognizer sample labeling tool. You can find it at fott.azurewebsites.net. And you can find it on GitHub when you search for form recognizer labeling tool.
Amazing. All right, Fani, we haven't really come to you that much. Would you let us know a little bit about what the containers project is for when it comes to cognitive services and how our customers are actually benefiting from them?
Yeah, I think there are some targeted scenarios, customers unable to work with cloud APIs because of the regulation requirements or data proximity concerns, and that's where we have containers in place. So today we have about 15 containers available from all 4 different product pillars like vision, speech, decision, and language. Even the spatial analysis that just Ryan mentioned, which we launched yesterday, also available in containers. So primarily these containers are for customers who want to run AI close to the data or at the edge. So primarily customers will benefit by taking the control on how they want to run the containers according to their data loads close to their data center, or if they have very strong concerns with privacy and security, which they couldn't able to work with cloud APIs. So these are the great use. So that's where the containers play a major role.
Amazing. All right, here's a question from Laurent regarding prices going up. Is every time if we add new functionalities, does the price of the service go up? Does anyone want to take that one?
I can take that one. I think that was also regarding the form recognizer price going up. So in general, our preview price for form recognizer and other services is usually lower than GA price. Once with GA price goes up, but then we do not expect, at least for form recognizer right now, for the new services to price go up again. So the difference is between preview and GA.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to go to Ivana because we haven't been able to talk to her too much. Tell us a little bit about some of the stuff that you're seeing people use cognitive services for, or what are you excited about when it comes to cognitive services? Ivana.
Well, I have 2 situations I would like to share for everyone in here to know. First of all, I live in Latin America. I live in Argentina. So having the possibility to have all the cognitive services in container is key in Latin America, because we usually lose connection of the internet pretty often. And we also don't have connection in all the different cities and all the different areas in which we could use and take advantage of the cognitive services, which is something that is pretty amazing. That I think 90% of the cognitive services are already as a container available. And the other thing that I'm working on is using the cognitive service with mixed reality. So having the possibility to imagine the use of the different cognitive services, not only the computer vision, but also the speech cognitive services through mixed reality, not only HoloLens, because as I said, I'm in Latin America and in here it's kind of difficult to get a HoloLens, but also the portability to create different applications for iOS and Android for us is pretty important, specifically speech translator, which is helping a lot to reach different communities in Latin America. So that's for me the most important things that I want to share.
Fantastic. Now we're coming up on the last minute or so of our time together. As always, please let us know if you have any questions. This obviously is not going to be the only time where we're going to answer questions. Reach out to any of us. We're super excited to answer your questions. Here is where you can find out more about what we're doing for Azure AI, for Form Recognizer, Metrics Advisor, Speech, and Spatial Analysis. Let's just try to run through a couple more questions just to finish up. I'm currently using the Bing News API, but what API returns is quite limited. Is there a way to increase what the Bing API sends back? Anyone have any thoughts on that one? For news. Looks like we don't have any Bing experts on here. We will look into it. I know the people that work on it. Make sure you reach out to me and I can get that question answered for you. But it's been a pleasure being with all of you. Thank you so much for coming. And hopefully you don't feel like this is the only time you can ask us questions. I know a lot of these folks personally, and they are super excited to answer any questions. So thank you so much. for spending some time with us. I actually need to go because they're already looking at me sideways like I need to go do a thing. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.